Hello, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad that I was able to rope you into this, and I'm sure you're a little bit unhappy about it, but thank you. I'm sure everyone will love hearing your words of wisdom. I don't think you need an introduction. I think everyone knows BB. So how are you?
I am fantastic. Megan, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Now, I've got a couple of questions for you tonight, and I also have two assistants who have sent through their questions, so I'll play those as we go through. But my question for you is just tell me a little bit about your journey at Knox. When did it begin? And, yeah, how did you get involved?
Interesting story. I was coaching basketball for Chandler Park in 1999, and I had an interesting game that I was coaching at Battye Heights Secondary College. I made the decision after the game to go down to Battye, and I found Bev Agambar, and I had a chat to Bev about the officiating on the game that I was coaching. She shared with me some rules of basketball, and I decided at that very point in time that I was going to not only umpire football, which I was umpiring in the Eastern Football League at the time, that I was also going to become a basketball referee. Because when I walked out of that room, I thought to myself, you know what? I actually think I can do a better job than the guys that did my game today. And one thing I always say is put your money where your mouth is. I had a chat with a guy who used to referee on a Thursday night, Stephen Piatek, and I told him, because Steve used to referee my games I used to play in on a Friday night, and I said to Steve, I'm really unhappy about what happened in my game. I'm going to become a referee. And so Steve pointed me in the right direction, and then in October 99, I did a referee's course that was run by Neil Black, and that's how I got involved.
Interesting. So you're a bit of a pain of a coach, I would take.
I absolutely was not a pain. I was simply misunderstood.
Oh, I see. That sort of made me think of another question. What made you choose basketball refereeing over footy in the end? Like, what was the decider?
So between 1999 and about 2004, I was umpiring football and I was also refereeing basketball. So I would referee on during summer, I would referee the whole year round. In winter, I would referee on 4 nights a week during the week, and one of those nights I had to go to an umpire's training for footy umpiring. My normal Saturday would look like a game in the morning, so an under-18s game on the field, and then I would do a seniors game on the boundary on a Saturday, and then on a Sunday I would do 2 juniors games starting at like 9 o'clock in the morning and finishing around 2, and then my old man would come and pick me up, take me home, put me in the shower, get me dressed for basketball refereeing, and then I'd referee from 5 till 11. When I was umpiring a game at Vermont, I was field umpire for a game at Vermont. I injured myself, and I ended up with a stress fracture in my tibia and my fibula at the same time. And so I wasn't able to run for some time. When I came back, I guess the strenuous nature of umpiring football, you actually run a lot more in terms of the kilometres you move per game. I had to make a decision about which sport I was going to come back into first, and there was less movement required in basketball, and so that's why I came back and refereed basketball first. I then worked out that, hey, if I wanted to be good at one of these, I had to make a choice. And at that particular point in time, because of my injury, I decided to continue with basketball refereeing.
And obviously that was a very smart decision because look where you are today.
Well, you never know, Megan, because I actually wasn't a bad football umpire either. So
you might have been in the AFL.
So you never know what you don't know, I guess. But I think the one thing I'd say is I tried to give both the best crack I could, and that's sort of been my philosophy from day one.
Awesome. Well, I've got a question here now from Mitchell Nevin for you. So I'll just play that for you. Hopefully you can hear it.
Hey DB, hope you're well, mate. My question is, what are your 3 tips to success in officiating, but also in life? Thanks.
3 tips. Look, I think the first thing is you got to be passionate about what you do. So whether it be refereeing or whether it be life, you need to have a real passion and a real desire to get better. And I think I bring both of those to both my personal career and also my refereeing career. I think the second thing is about applying yourself. So there have been moments in time where I know I haven't applied myself, and it's cost me dearly. I think if I had the time again, or if I had the wisdom that I have now, I would have done things differently along the way. There were certainly times where in my earlier days, I didn't pass a fitness test, or I didn't know all the rules, and that ended up costing me. So I would say apply yourself. The third thing is accept and listen to feedback. People are telling you something for a reason, and the one thing I'd say to a lot of guys is when you hear the same thing from multiple people, the problem is not with them. And so when you do hear that type of feedback come through, listen to it, digest it, and work out how that is going to make you a better referee. And the same applies again for me at work. People, when I do my performance reviews, I ask people, hey, how can I be a better leader, or how can I be a better manager, or how can I be a better teammate? And they're telling you something for a reason. So you've got to reflect on that and then work out what you're going to implement and what you're going to ignore. So that's the 3 things that I'd say.
Awesome. I think they're 3 very valuable things for people to take away. So thank you. The next question for you is from Stephen Battye. So
Sure.
I'll play that for you.
Hello, Megan. Hello, Daniel. My question for Daniel is, who are your biggest influences as you came through the ranks as a referee, and what did they teach you?
Okay. Look, there's been a lot of people who have influenced me, and this was probably one question that I was dreading that would be asked, because with these type of questions, you always miss someone. The first thing I'd say is Steve obviously had a significant impact on me when I started. I do remember a game very, very clearly where I was refereeing my first men's 1 game on a Wednesday night, and I remember the assistant advisor at the time, coming onto the court in the middle of a timeout and demanding to know from Steve Piatek why I was a B-grade referee, why I was refereeing a men's 1 game, because at that point in time it never happened. And so Steve certainly put his backside on the line for me multiple times as I was coming through, and that's something I'm obviously very, very respectful for. Certainly as I was coming through the ranks at Knox in the early 2000s, there are a number of people. So Wendy Barnard. Wendy taught me that you just do not put up with shit from people, and that you have to draw a really clear line in the sand about what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. Chris Reed has a very different style to Wendy. They referee well together, or they did referee well together because they complemented each other. Chris has got a far more relaxed style about him, where he's, I guess, probably prepared to put up with a little bit more shit and try and work on the relationship with people. And that was something that I learned a lot of hard lessons early on about how to deal with people, because I applied the Wendy principle or I applied the Chris principle. And somewhere along the way, probably in 2005, 2006, I started to work out that actually I needed to apply a bit of both. Guys like Mark Quinn, who was my Tuesday supervisor, again, Mark had a really interesting style about him where he was very much like Chris, and he was about how do you get the game through without there being an issue. And I did a particular team on a Tuesday night called the Pinkies, and the Pinkies used to get technical fouls every single game. And I remember Quinny saying to me, "Hey mate, come and watch this game. I'm going to referee them, and they're not going to get a technical foul." And he taught me in that particular game that you can alter your tolerance levels to get a particular outcome or a particular result. And again, that's something I've tried to merge or morph into my game as time's gone on. There are other guys that I guess I learned a lot from, or we taught each other a lot, and Sean Gottliebson, Ian Knight, Mitch Kennedy at the time. We were ultra competitive, and the fact that I went to a nationals and Sean got the gold medal and I got the bronze medal, that was enough motivation for me to go, I am never, ever going to go back to a nationals and not get the gold medal. And every nationals after that, that was my motivation. And I do thank Sean, because Sean ended up with an injury after that. And so we didn't end up continuing the rivalry. But, certainly as I was coming through, Sean and Ian, Mitch Kennedy, we taught each other a lot. When Chris and Wendy started to move through and do other things in their life, we had to work it out ourselves. And so those guys, I think, have really played a valuable input on my career. And then I got to say, I learned things from you. I learned things from Brad. I learned things from Mitch. There's a whole raft of new referees, even like Sam, Cam Crees, Maddie Gordon, Cindy. Like, they all have particular styles about them. I learned a lot from Jess Hughes as a referee. And these were all people who, at particular points in time, I was refereeing at a higher level than them, but they had something about what they were doing that I liked and that I knew I could implement into my game to make me a better referee. So that's a really long-winded answer, and I know I have forgotten lots of people who've influenced me along the way. But I hope that gives a bit of a response in terms of what Steve's asked.
And I think it's really good for younger up-and-coming referees that you don't just have to have one role model or one person to look up to. There are so many people that you can learn from and take little aspects from. So I think that's really great.
One other thing, I'd just say one more thing is,
yep.
When I decided that I wanted to referee the highest basketball that I could get to, I had to look at some of the traits of people who I really, really respected. And I may not have known them a great deal, but I watched their officiating. And so for me, as I was growing up, I used to watch the NBL, and I used to love Scott Butler. I used to love Michael Aylen. I used to like Ray Hunt. I used to like Billy. And so I would look at those guys and go, what is it about what they're doing that can help my game? And I know I still show at the referee camp the video of Scott Butler dealing with that situation in the Brisbane game from, I think, like 2007. In terms of communication and being really clear and having people's respect and attention, that was something that he did really well. And that's something that I tried to model as I started to hit better games.
Awesome. I think this sort of going to my next question for you. I know obviously you've had a long journey to get to the NBL, but can you just explain the feeling you got when you walked on the court to referee your first NBL game?
There is a very brief moment where you get a sense of accomplishment, like you've ticked a box, but that goes away very, very quickly, because then you have to actually start refereeing. The one thing I've learned, and it is really interesting now because we don't have basketball, but you can never ever take it for granted. And the one thing I'd say is referee every game like it's your last game. And so when I referee an NBL game or when I referee a WNBL game, I referee it like it's the last time I'm going to get the opportunity to do it, because at one point in time, it will be the last time that I get the opportunity to do it. And the way that basketball works is I probably won't know that it's the last game I'm going to do. So I go in with that, philosophy each and every time. And the feeling that you get is simply that you want to do more of it. So if you think about reffing the under-14 A-grade final at Knox on a Saturday for Brad, and you do that game, you go, shit, that was good. I want to do the 16s. I want to do the 19s. I want to do the 23s. I want to do junior panel. I want to get the game at the Classic or whatever it may be. Every step you take to the next level, and every step I took made me more hungry to do more of it. So that is the feeling that I get every time I referee. And when I walk off the floor, I go, hey, I want to do whatever it takes to make sure that I can get to do that at least one more time.
Yeah, awesome. I have probably 100 other questions that I would love to ask you, but that's it from me. I guess just finishing off, what message do you have for our members during this challenging time without basketball? If you could give them one piece of advice or a message, I guess.
It's probably not relevant, or it is relevant for now, but it's more, or it's just as relevant when there is basketball. And that is never take for granted that you get the opportunity to referee. And every time you every time you step on the floor, it is an absolute privilege to be able to do it, and it's not a right. People will make decisions along the way that you will or will not get to referee again. But now is a great time to reflect and go, hey, you know what? I see all of my friends in other states are all sending me Snapchats and photos and messages saying, hey, I'm refereeing, competitions back in Perth and competitions back in Sydney, and I'm reffing a QBL game. And I go, you know what? It makes it feel even more like a privilege for me to be able to referee a game, seeing other people, being able to do it and not being able to do it myself right now. So that's my one piece of advice, is treat every game with the respect it deserves, and I think that will serve you well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thanks for taking the time, DB. It was lovely to chat to you.
No problems, Megan.